The first episode of Star Trek Lower Decks is fun, and I want to see more. The first part of this video is going to be spoiler free. I'll go into spoiler territory at whatever time is showing up on the screen here. So just to get everyone up to speed, in case you're not already aware, Lower Decks is the first Star Trek animated series since created by Gene Roddenberry, which is a weird thing to name a cartoon, so people just call it the animated series because they're not comfortable with the truth. Descriptions are tedious, so I'm just going to give key phrases: Rick and Morty, CBS All Access, The Next Generation. That should bring everyone up to speed, so let's keep going. I'll start with what I liked about the first episode. It's a simple, tidy 26-minute morality tale about not jumping to conclusions. Through working together, they look past their weaknesses and appreciate each other's strengths. It's not any longer or more complicated than it needs to be. The characters are fun. There's by the book, the maverick, the geek, the optimist. They all have easily identifiable character traits that keeps things moving along. If you grew up on TNG, these jokes are written specifically for you. Kind of like the same ad you keep seeing before all the YouTube videos you watch. If you haven't already, you should probably ask yourself why, then reflect on it. The show flops around in Star Trek minutia, but the tone is good. It's light, it doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's got some heart too. As time goes on, it may not have to rely on gags to tell its stories. The Orville did that, and has become some of the best sci-fi made in the past 20 years. On the surface, the Orville looked like nothing more than a Star Trek spoof, but that evaporated away pretty quickly. The groundwork set up by Lower Decks' first episode suggests it might do the same. But moving along to the show, the uniforms look good. They've got a similar vibe to the ones that almost made it into Generations. The colors are bright, the music is brassy, thumbs up on that front. I also like the rest of the visual style. It's very TNG heavy. The ships have fluorescent lights and carpet, like a dental office. But that's the Star Trek I prefer. The deflector dish comes straight off the Enterprise D, so it's nice to see those design elements come back all these years later. The ship itself, the USS Cerrito, it's goofy looking, but that totally works for me. It's not supposed to be the flagship, it's just this tiny, awkward looking thing. Actually, to me it looks like one of those kit bashes that they threw together for the Battle of Wolf 359. Like they took Enterprise D model parts and just slapped them together and threw them on screen because, this is just another ship in Starfleet. I get the same vibe from this ship, and I like that they didn't try to make it look too cool. What it eventually boils down to is, do I recommend it? And for Star Trek Lower Decks, yeah, check it out. People like scoring systems though, so I'm gonna have to give it a 7.4886597734 out of 10. So now with some spoilers, I dig how Second Contact goes back to the kind of Star Trek I love. There's no bad guy with some plan to blow something up. The real conflict of this episode is whether or not Boimler is going to obey his captain and narc on Mariner. And then there's the backdrop conflict of the zombie outbreak on the ship. In both cases, there's no malice or ill intent behind anything. The solution isn't as simple as blowing something up. The solution is by making the best decision. It isn't too heavy-handed, of course, it's a cartoon, it's episodic, it's clean. Everything resets to the status quo at the end of the episode. And there's not much more to read into it. It's just a show designed to make you smile. The senior staff are set up well too. They all have their things. There's the bro-y first officer, the crabby doctor, the Bajoran security officer whose response to everything is blowing up warp cores. This episode did a great job of getting those personality traits across in very little screen time. So again, the overall message of the show is simple. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't get hung up on people's weaknesses, or else you might not notice their strengths. And that might be the best way to approach this episode. Somewhere beneath all the in-your-face self-referential Star Trek gags is a harmless 26-minute show. And somewhere inside that may be the kind of Star Trek you've been looking for.